Hey, Team FYN Sports and Circuit World of Blairsville presents Union Panthers Playback. I'm your host, BKP. We want to first thank Domino's Pizza up here in Blairsville and for providing the meal, and Pepsi for providing the drinks for our coaches and players. With us tonight, head coach Brian Allison of the Panthers and defensive coordinator Robbie Roxbury. Do I have it right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I didn't want to mess that up. With me over here with the video game stats, I'll explain that later, okay? With the video game stats, I have Pearson Allison, quarterback number 17, junior, and on the couch with us right now, junior number 21, wide receiver Sawyer Drake. Now, we're into region football. It's time to start telling you where everybody's at in the region, and every week and reporting in. The Panthers traveled down to Monticello. That was a long ride. We're going to talk to them about that in just a minute. They got a win, 38-22 over at Monticello. Now, in the region, we're talking AA Region 8 football standings. You have Elbert County 1-0, Banks County 1-0, Rabun County 1-0, Social Circle 0-1, and Monticello 0-1. Putnam County 0-1 and Oglethorpe 0-1. Last Friday night, Elbert County over Oglethorpe 48-10. Banks County was over Social Circle 32-10. Rabun County over Putnam County 42-20. Our Team FYN Sports Player of the Week is right here next to me, so I'm going to explain that. And Luther Jones said Pearson Allison has been putting up video game-like numbers. That's what he said, okay? Video game-like numbers for the first 3 weeks, and this week no difference. The junior signal caller was 19 for 28 for 284 yards passing and rushing for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns, okay? Now, the defensive, I'm going to call him the defensive spark plug, Chayton Schaefer. Did I get that right? He's going to be back this Friday night. He was not in the game this week. We'll talk a little bit about that. He'll be back this Friday night as the Panthers welcome Putnam County to town. Did I get all that right? That was a lot. Okay. Let's talk about going all the way down to Monticello, Coach. First of all, as silly as it sounds, tell the folks at home, 3 hours, like 6 hours round trip. You guys don't get home at 3 o'clock in the morning. What kind of wear and tear and toll is that on the team to try to 90-degree weather at kickoff? Talk about that a little bit.
I think it is a little bit of a factor driving that far. We split it up. We went 2 hours to Winder, stopped in, ate, and then took the other hour into Monticello. And it was just a tough night on that end of the travel. And I think at kickoff it was maybe 89, 90 degrees. So it's one of those temperature things that we haven't really been able to acclimate ourselves with. So I think it took a little bit of a toll on us. We came out and we played hard early, and as the game went on, you could tell we were starting to get a little bit weary. Especially some of those guys like Cannon was playing both sides. He probably had 60 snaps in the first half or so, 50 to 60 snaps, and that's a lot in that temperature. So I think it took a toll on us a little bit, and you could tell as the game went on that we had a little bit harder time tackling, and they had some guys that could move, and so I think it was a little bit of a factor.
As defensive coordinator here, Coach, now you're missing the spark. You got a great defensive unit, the whole unit. In the first 3 games, I think you put up. You allowed 7, 7, and 6, 1 touchdown a game, and that's it. Monticello put 22 up, but Chayton Schaefer was out this Friday night. What does a guy like that being out of the team, what's that like being out of the team? And talk about the way the rest of the guys stepped up, because I tell you what, I think, Coach, if I remember right, when you left that night over here, you were talking about this is the guy, we're going to lift him up all week long. Your team responded to that, did they not?
They did, and I challenged John Mancuso, who is our free safety, but he moved to strong safety to replace Chayton. And on Tuesday of last week, I challenged him and told him, I said, you can't be Chayton. You can only be you. Do the things that you can do. I have the utmost confidence, and he responded. He had a really good game. Got in all our checks, and was very good for us. So.
If you hit and make all your assignments, the unit's going to play well, and that's all they can do is focus on their assignments and not miss them, and they respond, and they held the Hurricanes. But is that the most speed this year you guys came up against? Is that the fastest team you guys had faced in the first 4 games this year?
I think it's probably one of the fastest. Now, East Hall had some really fast players, and even Habersham, going back to the scrimmage, had some really fast players too. But to put in, like Coach Allison said, to put in all the factors of where we're at going down into that heat, and I think we held them pretty well in the first half, and then we started to wear down just a little bit towards the end. Not making any excuses, but I think some of the heat had some of the factor to that, and they had some guys with some exceptional speed, and could make some plays and outflank us a little bit, and
Let me ask you a question, Pearson. You have 425 yards on the night, 290 pass and 135 rushing. But talk about you are a playmaker, and just the reality is, I watch you play, you make plays, you make some things happen. But talk about the other 10 guys, how they're responding, and how the unit or the offensive line and these guys are allowing you to make those plays and get to where you need to be to make things happen.
I'm pretty confident in everyone that I have. Like my receivers, I feel like they're really good, so I'm confident I can throw that 50-50 ball up to them, which increases my stats, but that's not on me, that's on them. I'm confident with my linemen too. I feel like they can get key blocks to make touchdowns, get some long plays in, and I think that I'm confident with everyone.
Let me ask you, Sawyer, as a wide receiver, Pearson throwing the ball to you, and also when you have to make the decision to be downfield and lead block and things like that, how's that going this year?
It's going pretty good. I mean, blocking downfield, that's not too big of an issue because I just run them off most of the time. But that 50-50 balls, he places it in the right spot.
Coach, let me ask you, on the first 3 games, non-region, you've been doing this for years. You look for certain things to be ready for to get into region play. Talk about some of the adjustments you made getting into region play, some of the things you've seen in the first 3 games of the year that you made some adjustments, and this is where you're at now.
Well, I think the adjustments were made beforehand, and I really the biggest adjustment Friday night was adjusting to the speed of the quarterback they had. The guy had been playing some quarterback, and then by the time we got there, their coaches had made a good decision for their football team to play their quarterback full time, and he gave us some fits. He threw the ball pretty well, and he ran it, and we had a hard time in space tackling him. So I think that's one adjustment after Friday night that we're going to have to make is continue to work on our tackling in open field and open space, and but I think Friday night we were pretty good. Our coaches adjusted to the what they were doing on defense, and it allowed us to be able to run the football in a combination of being able to throw it. And most of it was RPO stuff, that I think early on we RPO'd it and we read it and got it outside the cannon. And then they immediately after that jumped cannon, and it left Caden open inside. So it was really a pretty good, well-designed scheme in what we were doing, and we're just trying to hit the open person. And 1 week it may be one receiver, 1 week it may be Sawyer, and the next week it may be Kyle, really depending on what the defense is giving us.
I've listened to you on post game talks with the team, and one thing I've noticed, and tell me if I'm right here, but you believe in being honest with the team. You believe in being honest with the team. If it was a good game, or if they had to work harder this week, or whatever the case was, I've seen you win with a big spread, but still yet you say, hey, we did not execute here or there. So how satisfied are you with this past Friday night, even though you got the win?
I thought once again, we turned the ball over a couple of times early,
Right.
and defensively, we were fortunate enough we turned it over in their territory. We held them, and then we got going. We were moving the ball good, and the kids were blocking. It's just a couple of unfortunate turnovers that we had, and but I think once again, it's what I told them in our meeting today. Once again, I don't think we played as hard as we're capable of playing, and I don't know the exact reason because that's not in our nature of doing that. I don't know if it was because we got tired, but or if we got confused or whatever it was. And that's one thing we're working on this week is to fix any of that confusion, eliminate those turnovers, and do a better job of tackling.
Pearson, just like Coach said, there was a little bit of a slow start in the first 3 games of the year. You guys did not have that. So what was it like the first couple turnovers and getting a slow start, getting the guys in the huddle and the attitude of, hey, we got to get this turned around? What was that like?
I think the first turnover was just poor communication. I think that the receivers didn't communicate of who they were supposed to block, which I'm not going to blame them because I probably shouldn't have thrown it, but I think it was just poor communication. And then I think the second one was just my fault. I didn't put the ball away. I didn't secure it. So,
let me ask you before we leave, because we just got a couple minutes before we go to break. Putnam County coming in Friday night. What do you see with them as far as the different kind of defense you're going to be looking at this Friday night?
I think they're actually similar to Monticello. They run some similar stuff that they run on defense. They have some speed like Monticello does, so I think our game plan is pretty good that we discussed today, and I'm pretty confident in it.
Sawyer, what do you see as far as getting into their secondary on their defense as far as a receiver?
Their corners, I believe their corners are a little bit faster than Monticello's were, and they're definitely more aggressive. Watching film on them, I've seen that they're definitely more aggressive than Monticello's were. So.
Sometimes there's a thought when you have over 400 yards on offense and there's teams that don't put that up, what could you improve on? How could it be any better? But reality is, I ask every guy, when you left Friday night, what did you say to yourself you wanted to improve on, you wanted to work on, you could get better at this week?
I said that I didn't want to turn the ball over. I never want to turn the ball over. That's the main thing. If you have the ball, then you're going to win. So that was my main thing leaving. And don't try to do too much. That can go a long way too. So.
What was that for you, Sawyer? What did you say? I want to improve on. I need to work on.
I need to work on my blocking for sure. It wasn't too good at Monticello, and the game before that it wasn't too good either. I definitely need to work on my crack blocks and just running them off though.
Okay, folks, we're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, outside linebacker Hunter Kelly's going to be with us, going to join us here. When we come back, you're watching Team FYN Sports Presents Panther Playback, the Union Panther Playback here at Circuit World in Blairsville. And we want to thank Domino's Pizza for the meal and Pepsi for the drinks. I'm your host, BKP. Luther over on the camera. And right after this break, we'll be right back with our second half, and we'll talk to Coach about this coming Friday night's game.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and Ellijay, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN10 for your special deal today at Circuit World.
Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East LJ. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
You're going to remember this September because the model year-end savings are huge at Days Chevrolet in Jasper. Now save over $6,000 off new 2018 Chevy Equinox, or save over $12,500 off new 2018 Silverado Crew Cab LT. Days has model year-end discounts on every Chevy, so the time to buy is now at Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where new Chevys cost less.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
Hey folks, we're back. Team FYN Sports and Circuit World of Blairsville present Union Panthers Playback. I want to thank Domino's Pizza here in Blairsville for the meal, for the players and the coaches, and also Pepsi for the drinks. We have head coach Brian Allison here with us and defensive coordinator Robbie Roxbury. Joining us now on the couch, outside linebacker Hunter Kelly, number 30, senior here. And the Panthers coming off a win, 38-22 over Monticello, and we'll talk a little bit more about the region. We're talking 2A Region 8 football. We'll talk about it as we end up here. Now let me go with you here and ask you this question on a defensive side as an outside linebacker. Talk a little bit, two things. Chayton not on the field, and as you heard Coach earlier, not one individual could replace him. You can only play your position and do your job. What was it like? How did you guys rally together as a defensive unit Friday night to make this happen, to bring this win home?
Well, I mean, it made a big impact, not having Chayton out there, because he's a really good leader for our team and our defense, and a lot of guys respect him and look up to him. But we made it a challenge all week, and Coach Roxbury and Coach Allison, they told us to just fall back on our training and trust everything. And like Coach Roxbury said, we trusted John with a lot of responsibility, and he responded very well.
Outside linebacker, talk a little bit about containing, like I said in the first segment down there at Monticello, your first 3 games of the year. I think this quarterback and this offense probably maybe the most speed you've had an opportunity to see as defense and to contain this guy. So talk a little bit about what it was like 4 quarters trying to contain this offense, because he could move.
Yes, sir, he definitely could. And we knew going in that he was a very athletic guy, and he's very shifty, had a lot of speed. And it was a challenge on us, especially, as the game went on, we started getting a little bit more tired because of the heat and all that. But I think we did a pretty good job.
Well, you did. You gave up 6 on the first quarter, 8 in the second. You shut them out in the third, and in the fourth quarter, maybe some of that fatigue showed, and you gave up 8. But what was that like as far as physically? Even though the buses have air conditioning, it's a 3-hour ride, and then once you get ready, warm up 90 degrees. What was that fourth quarter like with you guys as a unit? Were you telling each other, hey, man, we could shut this down? I mean, what were you guys talking about out there? Come on, just a little more energy, right?
Yes, sir. We were just telling each other, fight through the adversity. We hear it every day at practice. It was a challenge. It really was, but we did our best, just make it through it. And
let's talk about, Coach, let's talk about on defense what you see with these guys. Putnam County coming to town Friday night. I think Pearson Pearson was saying that defensively they looked the same. What about their offense that you see on the defensive side that you've got to adjust with, and what they're bringing Friday night?
Well, it's been one of the strangest years that I can remember, because we've actually with 4 different teams, East Hall, Fannin was similar, Monticello, and now Putnam, with the 2-back eye spread type look. They've all kind of fell into that same deal, so it's actually helped us to be able to see the same repetitive offense. We face our offense all the time with 2-back, but everybody has their own little wrinkles to things. So very similar in what we what we felt against Monticello. They have speed. The fullback's good. The quarterback's a good thrower. I don't think he's the same animal as what we faced with Monticello as far as speed-wise, but he still will pull it. They read their option stuff really well, and he can pull it and scamper and get some yards. The receivers, I think, are a little bit better on the Putnam side than the Monticello side. So we've got the outside vertical threats.
So you've got some receivers that you're going to have to contain this Friday night,
yes,
that maybe you haven't quite got a look at this year, played up against that kind of talent this Friday night, yes, the receivers. Coach Allison, talk about the same team, them coming to town. Give us your insight on both sides of the ball and what we're going to see Friday night out of these guys.
Well, I think Coach Rocks hit it pretty good on what they're going to be on offense, and making sure that they do a lot of motions. We're going to get more motions than what we've seen. They'll cross the formation motion and run the ball and toss it to a couple of those receivers and get them in space, and a little bit more screen game than what we've seen. So that'll be different, and I think we go back to what Pearson had said about their defense, and it's similar to what we had seen against Monticello and similar to East Hall. So it just everybody has a little different wrinkle.
What are some of the things, I know you talked about in the first segment, but let's go back a little bit as far as practice this week. Today's just Monday, first practice of the week. What are some of the things that this unit needs to work on a little bit that you guys got to put a little effort on?
Well, I think we're turning blocks loose a little too quick on the offensive side of the ball. I think we got to do a little bit better job of that, taking care of the football, and we've got to do a better job of tackling in space. We missed way too many tackles Friday night. Special team-wise, too, we don't talk much about it. It was good at some points. We took a drive down with a little over a minute left in the second quarter, drove it down 40 yards. Brian kicked a field goal to put us up 24-14 at halftime. I thought that was a big momentum shifter in the ball game. So we've tried to continue to work on our kickoff team and continue to work on our special team.
What do you see as far as this Friday night? Some of the things that Coach talking about missed tackles and things like that you guys got to work on as a unit this week in practice, and this team coming, what you're seeing in film already, this team coming to town Friday night.
Well, we're definitely going to have to do a lot better job tackling, because they're a heavy run team, as well as throwing, outside routes. And we're expecting a heavy run, and we just got to be in position to make plays.
Coach, now talk about moving down. This is our first game, your first game in 2A Region 8 this year. It's a little different from the last time, the region, than the last time you played in 2A. But immediately, what is the difference of starting region play here versus the 3A last year?
Well, one thing is you're not playing a team like GAC that had 6 or 7 D1 players on it. That was the first region game last year. The thing of it is this team had a lot of speed that we just got through playing. So offensive line wise, I don't think it's a fair comparison from GAC necessarily to Monticello, just because of the difference in size of the schools. So I think there's a little bit of maybe a little bit of size wise difference, and probably depth wise. I think GAC and a lot of those teams had a little bit more depth than what we're seeing.
Well, you know, a lot of times there's some misunderstanding that 3A and 2A, it doesn't mean you're not playing some very serious competitive football.
That's
you're
right.
just playing in a level where your team needs to compete with the others. Am I right? Am I getting?
Yeah, I don't think it's a whole lot different than when we were in 8AA a few years ago. We've just switched Green and Washington Wilkes for Putnam and Monticello. So, you know, that's pretty similar, you know, as far as those teams and what they do and how they play. It's just a little different, and I would think that that AAA region was more power oriented, and these teams are, to me, are maybe a little bit more speed oriented and getting stuff on the edge.
Coach, let me ask you that same question. In the AA, have you coached in this region a couple years ago? I don't know how long you've been with the team, so
Yes,
so you're used to the 2A, and like Coach said, there's only a couple different teams. So you've seen a lot of these teams already.
Yes, sir.
Okay, folks, let me just give you a rundown because this is region play, and it's time to keep up with everything. And I want to go over it one more time. 2A, Region 8 football. The teams that are in this region, Elbert County, they're 1-0. Banks County's 1-0. Rabun County is 1-0. Union County 1-0. Social Circle 0-1. Monticello 0-1. Putnam County 0-1. Oglethorpe County. Let me tell you where everybody's going to be Friday night. So if you're trying to keep up with the region, a lot of you guys out there, a lot of you fans like to keep up with the entire region. Elbert County will be at Social Circle Friday night. Banks County will be home against Oglethorpe Friday night. Rabun County home against Monticello. Union Panthers are home. Your Panthers are home against Putnam County War Eagles. So that's right over here, 7:30 kickoff. Your team is home. Come out and support the team. Now, before I know we've gone all the way around this, and you have kindly answered this question already, Hunter. But let me ask you this: every player, when you left Friday night, what did you say you need to work on? What individually did you say I have to work on this week?
Well, I really particularly wasn't happy with the way I tackled during the game in open space, like we've already talked about. I had one on, I believe it was a pitch, and I had one on a punt that I missed. And I just think that, you know, we're going to get a lot of work on it this week in practice, I know, and we're going to be ready for Friday. So
Coach, missed tackles, all the things that have to be worked on this week. These guys putting Creighton back into the lineup. He's kind of that spark plug that fires things up and pulls things through the fourth quarter. Does he give 110% all four quarters and kind of get everybody fired up?
He does. He goes. The guy goes hard all the time. Practice, it doesn't matter. And you know, he is, like you said, he is the spark plug. He's not the only guy out there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I understand what you're saying.
He goes out there, and you know, the kids, like Hunter said, they've got the respect, and they know what they can expect, and they know where he'll fit into the defense. And you know, and a big play is waiting for an opportunity when he's in the lineup, so to speak, and ready to go. So.
Well, you have 11 guys, but every once in a while you got a guy that the other guys feed off their energy.
Absolutely.
And he seems to have that. He seems to bring that. So, and I bet he's excited to be back on the field Friday night. And I bet he was upset last week. Coach, we appreciate you very much for being here. We appreciate you guys out there, the fans, for watching. I'm your host, BKP, and this is Team FYN Sports. And don't forget, on Friday nights, follow us on Twitter at Fetch Your News. At Team FYN Sports, I get that straight. At Team FYN Sports, follow us, and also Instagram and Facebook. Join our Team FYN Sports Facebook page. Now, this we upload to Facebook. It's running live, so you can share it with your friends. And don't forget, every Monday morning at 10 a.m., instant replay on FYNTV.com with Dave Garner, where we go over highlights and scores and updates from Friday night. And also we talk about high school softball, volleyball, a little bit of everything all across North Georgia. So that's every Monday at 10 a.m. And always follow us on Friday night for our Game of the Week, okay? Team FYN Sports Game of the Week. I'm your host, BKP. Circuit World, thank you. Domino's, thank you. Pepsi, thank you. Guys, thank you very much. I appreciate you for taking your time. We out?